I'm 35M, she's 33F, we've been together 10 years, married for 7. No kids. A dog who thinks I'm the sun and moon because I'm the one who actually feeds him and takes him out at 5:30 a.m. rain or shine. I work in it for a hospital, on-call graveyard shifts, early morning pages, a pager that may as well be surgically attached. I fix problems when they break, and they always break at the worst times. I'm also the guy who calls his mom every Sunday and takes her to cardiology appointments when I can get off, even if it means staying up 30 hours straight. I'm not a saint, just an overworked person who happens to keep his promises. She lets call her Mia works in marketing. Busy season campaign launches. This pitch could make my career the works. I believed her, or rather, I wanted to. When we got married, I literally made a speech to her parents about being her safe place. You don't expect to have that used against you like a pillow over your face. The working late started about 8 months ago. It wasn't suspicious at first. I was proud of her. The agency had just landed a big account. I was ordering in for her team sometimes on my dime, because that's what you do when you love someone and you want to see them win. I'd pick her up when she said her car was acting weird. I'd drive through downtown at midnight because she was too wired to drive. I'd wake up to cold sheets at 3 a.m., and she'd be in the bathroom whispering, "We're still going over edits." Here's where I admit I am not a perfect husband. I'm sarcastic when I'm tired. I resent quietly. I shove it down and stack plates on top of it. I don't start fights. I just take longer showers. I didn't think my flaws, ordinary as they were, gave her a pass to lie. The first real crack wasn't the late nights. It was the 2 phones. He said the work phone was mandatory because of client data. Okay, fine. Then she stopped answering the personal phone after 8 p.m. because her brain was fried and Slack was all she had energy for. She would sleep in guest rooms so she didn't wake me up when she came in late. At first, I took it as kindness. Then the toothbrush moved into the guest bath permanently. I confronted gently, too gently, as it turns out. Is everything okay? Are we okay? Do you need more help, less pressure? She cried. She always knows the waterworks are my kryptonite. She cried and told me I was her rock, that she was exhausted, that she felt like a failure, that her boss was weaponizing urgency and she didn't know how to say no. I had been reading about burnout and emotional labor and thought, yeah, this is modern life. Let me carry more, so I took more. I picked up her dry cleaning. I started handling her half of the bills without reminding her. I cooked or door-dashed or pretended I wasn't hungry. Every time something inside me twisted, I told it to relax, be supportive. I started noticing her late nights had a rhythm. Tuesdays, Thursdays, some Fridays, but not all. If she'd had a big presentation that day, sure. But this was too predictable. She'd drift home smelling like a different laundry detergent. Not a heavy scent, more like she'd rubbed up against someone's clean shirt. People on the internet talk about the scent of cologne like a smoking gun. It wasn't that. It was the absence of her smell. The shampoo changed. The lip balm got glossy. Little things I tried to rationalize because I didn't have hard proof. Then 2 months ago, her car got a recall notice. I'm the car guy by default, which is hilarious because I change a headlight and feel like I've performed heart surgery. The local dealership needed the car overnight. I dropped her at work. I took the car to service. They gave me a loaner. When I returned the car the next day, I noticed the recent destinations in the GPS when I tapped it by accident trying to clear her zigzag route to office. I wouldn't even have looked if my finger hadn't slipped. There it was, office, Pilates, her best friend's condo, Starbucks. And then in a string, the same address over and over, usually around 7:30 p.m. The system lists the dates, which I now know unfortunately down to the minute. I knew the general area. It was a quiet residential block on the west side, not near her office, not near her gym, not near anything. My stomach sank in a way I will never quite be able to describe. I told myself maybe it was a new client's home office. People do weird things. I decided not to jump to conclusions. I took a picture of the screen anyway. I told myself that this was nothing, and I did not look at the picture again for a week. You know what she did that week? She told me I was clingy. I had asked if she wanted me to bring dinner to her office because I'd be nearby fixing a server rack. The way she said clingy, half laughing, half exasperated, like a dog underfoot. That was when the anger started. Of course it did. Because when people lie to you, they have to make it your fault. It's the only way the world makes sense to them. So last Thursday, I did the thing. I'm not proud of the adrenaline high that washed through me when I decided. I'm trying to be honest here. She texted around 6. "Babe, I'm working late again. We're so close. Don't wait up." I wrote back, "Okay, be safe. Love you." She didn't respond. The period at the end of "you" felt like a slap. I got in my car. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. My hands shook. I drove to her office first because I wanted to be wrong. The lot was half empty. Maybe she took an Uber. I actually laughed in the car like a crazy person alone in the parking lot because I was arguing with myself out loud. Maybe she took an Uber, idiot. Maybe she's at the client's. Why would she risk her car being towed? Maybe she's at dinner with the team. I sat there for 20 minutes. I texted, "Do you need anything?" No response. Then I did it. I opened the manufacturer's app for her car because we share it for roadside assistance. Anyone who wants to judge me, go ahead. She set it up on our shared plan. I pay the bill. I have used it to find the car when she forgot what level she parked on at the mall. In my head, I called it Find My Integrity. The app updated slowly, spinning like the minute hand on a clock that wasn't sure which direction to click. Then the little dot settled. Not at the office. Not in the downtown grid. In the West Side neighborhood. The same one from the GPS history, same street. And then I started to know in my bones. I put the address into my GPS. It was 20 minutes away. I had no plan. It felt like I was driving underwater. I remember the radio being on and not being able to process the sound. I remember stopping at a light and the guy next to me singing with his windows down, and I wanted to scream at him. Not because he'd done anything, just because he existed in a world where my world wasn't ending. It was a nice street. Wide, mature trees, 3-car garages, neighborly porches. You know, the kind where the Halloween decorations go up early and the HOA is strict. I drove past slowly. I didn't even need the house number. I saw her car, parked midway down, snug in the curb like it belonged there. It hit me so hard I felt like I might pass out. I parked at the end of the block and walked. The dog walkers didn't look at me. The sun was going down, lighting up the leaves like stained glass. I think it's cruel the way the world can be so beautiful in the middle of your worst moment. I took pictures of her car, of the license plate, of the dent on the passenger side that I paid to fix last year and then didn't because the quote was insane. I made a little album like a psychopath because my brain needed proof of the things my chest already knew. When I reached the house, I stopped on the sidewalk. I'm not a fool. I didn't go banging on the door. I looked, I listened. I could hear music muffled low. The curtains were open just enough. It was like a stock scene from a movie where the husband catches the wife, except there were no limbs flailing in front of windows. Thank God for small mercies, I guess. I saw her silhouette cross the living room, phone in her hand, laughing at something not on the phone. And then I saw him. Tall, dark hair, t-shirt, and sweatpants. Barefoot, comfortable, home, that's the worst part. The way she looked at ease, at peace. She never looked like that with me in the last months. With me, she sighed and rubbed her temples and told me about deliverables. With him, she glowed. I stood there until my hands stopped shaking. I took another picture. I took one of him opening a bottle of wine. I saw their fingers touch when she took the glass. I stepped back because I felt like I might throw up right there on the lawn. Here's a thing I never thought I'd say to myself. I didn't go in. I didn't want to be a meme. I didn't want to rage and scare her or hurt someone or give her the out to tell our story as my husband lost it. I wanted to be boring. I wanted to be meticulous. So I turned around and I walked back to my car, and on the way I took picture after picture of her car from different angles like the world's saddest insurance adjuster. I drove home. I sat in my driveway. I exhaled. I let the kind of cry out that I didn't know adults did, silent, violent, the kind that makes your stomach heave. Then I showered because the sweat was cold on my skin. I didn't call anyone. I fed the dog. He wagged his whole back half like he was trying to keep me from falling apart. I slept on the couch for 3 hours until my phone buzzed at 12:19 a.m. Long night. Exhausted. Going to crash at Steph's to be closer to 9 a.m. meeting. Don't wait up. She always uses punctuation when she lies. When she tells the truth, she uses emojis. That's the kind of pattern you only notice when you've been studying someone for a decade. I stared at the message. I typed, "Okay, love you." Then I put my phone face down and stared at the ceiling. I got up and made coffee at 1 a.m. like a lunatic. I cleaned the kitchen. I organized the junk drawer. I made a list of things I needed to do that made me feel like a person. Call a lawyer, call a therapist, STD test, take the ring off and put it somewhere safe because I did not want to sleep with it on and feel like it was choking me. In the morning, I sent an email to HR to ask about taking some personal days. I sent another to the dealership to see if I could get a printout of the GPS history since the last update. It turns out most systems keep a log for some number of months. And if you ask nicely, the service tech will print it while pretending not to understand why your voice shakes. I got an appointment for blood work. I typed out a text to her that said, "We need to talk tonight." Then I deleted it and decided to wait. I wanted her to lie to my face one more time to have the words on record. Some part of me was still hoping she would choose to confess on her own. It's embarrassing now. She came home early that evening, 5:45 p.m. The dog went nuts. She smelled like lavender and that detergent again, like someone else's cold sheets. She kissed my cheek like a cousin might. She started telling me this convoluted story about a client meltdown that she'd fixed by stepping in as the adult in the room. The gall, the wild, feral gall, I let her finish. I asked calmly how Steph was. She blinked. "Huh," I said, "you said you slept there." She laughed. "Oh yeah, fine." There was a beat. I could actually hear it, that split second where you can see the brain choose. She turned away to put her bag down and said, "I'm going to shower." I said her name. She froze. I said clear enough that the dog cocked his head. "How is he?" She didn't turn. She said, "Who?" I said the address. The numbers rolled off my tongue like a prayer. I said, "How's he?" She was silent so long the house hummed louder. Then she turned with that look I had come to dread over the last months. Not guilt, not even surprise, offense. She said I was out of line, that I had crossed boundaries, that it was abusive to monitor her. She did not say, "I didn't." That's what cut me. She did not reach for my hand and say, "No, no, no, baby, this is a misunderstanding." She squared up and told me that my behavior was the problem. I laughed. It wasn't nice. It bubbled up like acid. I said, "You know where that GPS address came from? Your car, the one we share, the one whose payment I made this morning." She told me she had been helping a friend. She said he was going through a divorce. She said she had fallen asleep on the couch and that nothing happened. She said a dozen versions of "you're imagining things." That's when my stomach went cold, because if she had snapped, "I'm unhappy, at least we could deal with reality." But no, she was going to yank me around the gaslighting carousel first. So I pulled out my phone. I didn't shove it in her face. I showed the corner of it, the photos of her car, the time stamps, the dealership printout. I said, "Tell me again I'm imagining it." She started to cry, big, beautiful tears. Of course she did. Then she flipped sides like a coin. She said we were broken. She said I was never present. She said she tried to talk to me, which is hilarious considering I've been the one begging for eye contact for months. She said he was someone who listened. And there it was, the wound packed with pretty words. He listened. He saw her. I could go through every line. I could quote them verbatim. You've all read them before. It just happened. I didn't mean to hurt you. We didn't plan it. You've been distant. I'm human. It felt nice to feel wanted. We were only talking. I guess it went too far. We both know what it means when someone can't say the words clearly. We both know what the hedge means. Yes, she had been sleeping at another man's house while telling me she was on Zoom calls. Yes, she had let me rub her shoulders after she got home, my hands kneading the muscles he had worn out the night before. That's a sentence I'm going to need to bleach out of my brain. You want to know the wildest part? She asked me to work through it. Not apologetically, expectantly, like because I'd promised to be there, I'd be there while she splashed around in someone else's bathtub. She said I was overreacting by bringing up divorce. She told me I should fight for us. Fight for what? For the right to be told I'm crazy. For the privilege of paying for her to go see a friend twice a week. I told her to pack a bag, calmly, not yelling, not threatening. You should go to Steph's tonight, or his. Wherever you're not texting me from with Grammarly turned on. She actually had the audacity to say, "You're being cruel." Cruel. I'm the guy who has been sautéing vegetables and pretending not to notice they taste like someone else's spice rack. She left. After slamming every door a door can slam, she went to her car and then came back and asked for the keys to my car because she didn't feel safe driving. And I wait for it, almost handed them to her. The autopilot is strong. The kindness reflex almost killed me. Instead, I took a breath and said no. She called me a word I won't repeat. She Ubered away. I called a lawyer the next morning. I called a therapist. I called my doctor, got the tests. I called my mom, which I thought I wouldn't do because I didn't want anyone to see the crack. My mother said very simply, "Finally," and then made me tea. She had known something was off, mother's man. I called Mia's best friend, Steph, because I didn't want to blow up her life if there was even a 1% chance I was wrong. Steph cried. She said she knew something was up. She had tried to talk to Mia. She had begged her to be careful. Okay, well, that answered that. 2 days later, my phone lit up with messages from Mia's sister and her mother asking why I threw her out. Mia had told them the story where I'm a controlling psycho who spied on her car. I sent one screenshot, the address, the dates, and then I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. This is where the vindication creeps in, and I will not apologize for how good it felt. The silence after sending proof. The quiet where my chest could warm up again. Her sister texted back, "I'm so sorry." Her mother didn't text back at all. I assume Mia is working on a new narrative where I had emotionally abandoned her and this was a cry for help. Good luck to everyone at that table. I'm not naive enough to think this is over. She will come back with apologies and then anger and then bargaining. She will talk about sunk costs, about the wedding photo, about the time we spent, about the dog. She will tell me I owe it to us to try. She will ask me if this is really worth throwing away a decade. As if she hadn't been throwing it away by the handful every Tuesday and Thursday like confetti on someone else's carpet. People always ask in these posts, "Why are you even writing this?" Because I need to say out loud that I wasn't crazy. Because I need to see the words. My wife said she was working late, but the car GPS led me to another man's house. Period. Because I want the part of my brain that keeps replaying her voice telling me I'm clingy to sit down and be quiet in the face of a map with a little blue dot. Because I needed a place to put the rage where it didn't chew me from the inside. I've started making a list of things I was right about to remind myself I can trust me. I was right that something was wrong. I was right that work late had a pattern. I was right that kindness without boundaries is not kindness, it's self-erasure. I was right that the smell on her wasn't hers. I was right that people who tell you you're clingy when you are trying to love them are telling on themselves. I was right that the dog's sudden preference for my side of the bed was not random. Dogs know. And please spare me the "everyone makes mistakes." She didn't trip and fall into 3 months of carefully timed Tuesdays. She scheduled me like an obligation and him like a prize. I'm not the villain for finding the GPS. I'm the grown man who finally turned on the light and stopped pretending the scratching at the walls was the house settling. You want to know something else? I did get one satisfying conclusion, the tiniest square of chocolate after a meal of ashes. When I went to get my things from the bedroom, I saw her work phone buzzing on the nightstand. She'd forgotten it in the fury of leaving. Ethan flashed on the screen, not an ex, not a cousin. The name thudded in my head like a drum. I answered. I shouldn't have, but I did. He said softly, "Hey, are you okay?" I said just as softly, "This is her husband." Dead air, then a little spit of breath like he'd been gut-punched. I said, "I was just making sure you know too." He said, "She told me you were separated." Of course she did. The oldest script in the world. I said, "We're not." Then I hung up. I did not rage. I did not threat. I simply removed the last Jenga piece she was balancing her lies on. Later, one of her emails popped on my laptop because we share a family account. She'd sent him a masterpiece of false equivalence. "We got caught. I need time to think." We, as if I had been in the room with them, pouring the wine. The way cheaters use, "we will never stop astonishing me." We drifted. We made mistakes. We need to heal. No, Mia, you drifted. You made mistakes. You need to heal from the disease of thinking love is a faucet you can turn on other people's houses while leaving ours dry. I've started packing. It's my house, I know, but I need air without her voice in it. I need to be able to sleep without bracing for the front door at 2 a.m. I'll let the lawyer tell me who stays and who goes in the long run. For now, I'll take the couch at my brother's. I'll walk the dog around a different block where my feet don't know how many steps it is to someone else's porch. I'll scrub the scent of that lavender out of the guest sheets. I'll buy new towels. I'll sit with the quiet and let it be a balm instead of a threat. I keep thinking of a thing she said early on before the rot set in back when we were still ourselves. We were on a road trip, laughing at nothing, and she patted the dashboard and said, "You always know where you're going." She meant it as a joke because I refused to stop for directions. Now it feels like a curse that I broke by refusing to look. If I had learned to trust my internal GPS, my guts sooner, maybe I would have spared myself a month of being told I was clingy while my heart was being pawned off on Tuesdays. To anyone reading this who has that same little itch, the one you keep scratching in the dark, telling yourself it's nothing because you don't want to be that person, I'm not telling you to go storm a house. I'm telling you to listen to yourself. The world will call you cynical for double-checking. The person lying to you will call you controlling for asking, but you are allowed to know where your life is. You are allowed to follow the map of your own sanity. And when the dot blinks, when the story and the coordinates don't match, you are allowed to close the door they keep walking through and say, simply enough. She texted me today a paragraph with immaculate punctuation asking if we could set some time aside to discuss this calmly. She said she is willing to go to counseling. She said, "We can rebuild trust." I stared at the words for a long time. Then I replied, "There's no we here to rebuild. Please communicate through my lawyer." Send. Delivered. Read. Nothing. I stood in the kitchen after and waited for the grief to bowl me over again. It didn't. It washed through and out, and what was left was this unexpected lightness. Not happiness. Not yet. Just the absence of weight that wasn't mine in the first place. For months I had been lugging around her secrets like suitcases up 3 flights of stairs. Setting them down finally feels like I can stand up straight. Maybe that's all vindication is really. Not revenge. Not a victory lap. Just standing tall in your own story and saying, without flinching, "This is what happened." She said she was working late. The car GPS led me to another man's house. I was not paranoid. I was paying attention. I was not cruel. I was careful. I am not broken. I am tired. I am angry. I am wildly disappointed. And I will be okay. The dog is sleeping at my feet as I type this, snoring like a tiny chainsaw. I'm going to take him out, breathe the cool air, and look at a sky that has no idea I exist and find comfort in that. Tomorrow I'll call the lawyer back and start the paperwork. Tomorrow I'll take my mom to her appointment and make a joke about hospital forms. Tomorrow I'll make breakfast for one and not set out a second plate I have to throw away cold. Tomorrow I'll wake up and the first thought won't be, "Where is she?" It will be, "Where am I going?" And for the first time in a long time, I'll trust myself to answer,